Howdy, we're back with part 2 of my 2024-25 preseason NBA power rankings, this time featuring teams 11 through 20. We've got about a week left till the NBA season debuts, so I'll likely be dropping the final video close to season start. At number 20, we have the Miami Heat, a team and ranking that could have me looking pretty silly at the end of the season, but honestly one I don't hate given Miami's polarizing roster and lack of added talent this offseason. The team won't be out of the race with Butler and Bam leading the charge, but they've been unable to get over the hump in recent years, and I think Butler and potentially even the Heat front office are ready for a change of scenery, which could come with its own challenges. If they do trade Butler, do they really receive adequate win-now talent in return? And if they do, does it even matter with the way this roster is set up? They could always vie for a talented free agent next offseason, being one of the more sought-after markets, but I'm just not convinced they're that far away from a reset of sorts. Regardless, there's simply too many question marks surrounding this Heat team to make me think they're in position to really contend this season, but I'm sure Spo will prove me wrong as he has year in and year out. At 19, we have the Rockets, another exceptionally tough ranking due to them having one of the better young cores in the league mixed with some really wily veterans in Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, Steven Adams, all of which I really like. This is potentially unpopular, but I'm just not sure this is Houston's year to make a sizable leap in the standings. As previously stated, this young core 7 is legit. Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, Amen Thompson, Cam Whitmore, Reed Shepard. I think they have multiple stars and long-term NBA studs in this group, but I think if the organization is smart, they spend the season figuring out the best configuration of this roster for the future. There's going to be iterations of this roster that can win more games this season, but just as an example, is bringing Thompson off the bench or giving Shepard limited minutes really what's best for the future? I do think this organization is smart, so I think they'll ultimately do just that, somewhat sacrificing some wins this season in favor of the greater good, and this roster exits the launchpad in 1 to 2 seasons instead. At number 18, I have the Warriors, for the first time in a while, truly on the outside looking in of the postseason. Steph Curry remains one of the best players in basketball. At this point, probably only vying to be the best point guard of all time. But to this point, his primary beneficiaries are 34-year-old Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins, two players I'm just not necessarily high on as a core. The team has fun youngsters in Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Pajemski, Moses Moody, but they're going to need one to really step into the spotlight, probably Kuminga, to make Western Conference waves in the Bay. With the team failing to really make moves this offseason, I just have more questions than answers about the Dubs, despite Curry's continued dominance. The San Antonio Spurs are primed to be a Western Conference dark horse. I really truly believe that, and I'm serious when I say that I think the play-in and even playoffs could be on the table. The NBA at its core is about top-end talent, and Victor Wembanyama will ascend to superstar level and likely one of the 5 to 10 best players in the league as early as this season. Even better, they've signed an all-time veteran point guard with gas still left in the tank in Chris Paul, who complements him perfectly. And when you really dive into this roster as a whole, it's not half bad and has continuity. Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Harrison Barnes, Trey Jones, Jeremy Sohan, Zach Collins. In order for San Antonio to truly get to finals contention, they'll need to hit on more youngsters or pair Wembanyama with another All-NBA talent, but for this season's purposes, I think this team is plenty capable. Another team with all-time talent that continues to find itself in the middle of the West is the Los Angeles Lakers. Despite still having LeBron James and Anthony Davis signed on, two players that I still really believe are capable of MVP-level play on any given night, Los Angeles simply hasn't built a contending roster around these two. D'Angelo Russell as your point guard, Austin Reeves and Vando are solid pieces, but nothing, in my opinion, that truly sets LA apart from the middle ground of the West. Maybe by the grace of God, Davis wills this team to 10 more wins than I think with some of the best interior play in the league, and LeBron can match the same output as the last few years, but I'm not necessarily going to bet on it. And that's not really even accounting for some of the injury history of the players on this roster. I really think Los Angeles is in the final stages of the Bron era. Smack dab at number 15 is the Memphis Grizzlies, a team many have back in their contending tier and one that I'm a little bit more hesitant about backing at this present moment. Let's firstly just run through what is most definitely a talented roster. Ja Morant, not much to add there, likely one of the 10-ish best players in the world when healthy. You've got Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr., who have long flanked Morant as ancillary stars, players that I love for plenty of reasons. And rounding out the rotation are Marcus Smart, acquired via trade, Zach Edey, drafted in the top 10 in 2024, and a variety of other young players gathered over the last few years. I have no doubt this roster will eventually be one that's feared, but there is just little to no continuity here, accounting for injuries, additions, and youth, and I really have a hard time seeing them get off to the fast start in this West that many think they can. I really feel like it's going to take some time for this roster to gel, Morant to get back to impactful NBA play, to assimilate to a really specific fit with Edey, and more. I'm personally just not under the impression this roster is an auto contender with how good the top of this conference is, but I think the Grizzlies will leave hibernation soon. At number 14, we have the New Orleans Pelicans, a team I finally have making somewhat of a breakthrough after getting swept in the 2023-24 playoffs. Last year, this team finally saw a semblance of consistency with star Zion Williamson playing 70 games, and in the offseason they took it one step further, trading developing guard Dyson Daniels and a few picks to get Hawks star DeJounte Murray, a trade I don't totally mind for this squad. Despite Brandon Ingram not being long for the New Orleans Pelicans, this core four of Zion, CJ McCollum, B.I., and Murray, with really good role players like Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, and more, feels like it has some potential to me. It's one of a few rosters in this pack that both has talent, but is also really complementary with a 1-3-5 punch and shooters packing the in-between areas. They might need to add some versatile win-now pieces to the front court, but otherwise this team should really win some games. I have them being a really tough out in the play-in. Our first true playoffs team is the Sacramento Kings. As I alluded to in the last video, I love DeMar DeRozan as a pickup, especially in adding him to this core that's already super versatile offensively. De'Aaron Fox remains a star in every sense, Sabonis is a special type of big, and as far as role players go, the core of Keegan Murray, Keon Ellis, Malik Monk, and Kevin Huerter is wildly underrated. Most simply, this team just has a ton of studs that I think will really churn out wins on a nightly basis. I ultimately don't think it's a squad that has true championship aspirations, just given the way it's constructed, undersized lead guard, mid-range aficionado, and non-defensive 5, but I do think it's going to be really fun and a regular season machine. At number 12, we have a team that I desperately wanted to rank higher in the Indiana Pacers, but one that I feel just slightly was lightning in a bottle last season in making the Eastern Conference Finals. And honestly, I'm not totally sure where they rank among the consensus. They have a really good roster, a really good system, and a really good head coach. Love Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, have been a longtime fan of Andrew Nembhard, and players like Miles Turner, Nesmith, Mathurin, Toppin, McConnell, and more allowed this team to thrive last season. But I think it would be just a bit naive to ignore the fact they got fairly lucky with injuries last playoffs, and the top of the East stands to get better where Indiana could very much stay the same. Hopefully Jarris Walker comes in and changes that, but we'll see. I do assert that this team needs to stay the course for now, but this season could come with a philosophy change for the Pacers. Just outside the top 10 and rounding out the video is the Orlando Magic, a team that spent a few seasons atop the NBA draft but has quickly made its way back to the competitive area of the NBA. Led by an obvious talent in former top pick Paolo Banchero, the Magic made strides last season and are poised to really put the pieces together next season. Jalen Suggs emerged as a strong point guard option, especially in this specific core. Franz Wagner remained a high-level forward, and to put a bow on a good season, they went and grabbed a high-level, two-way 3-and-D proven guard in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in free agency. The reason I've bumped the Magic ahead of a few really good teams is that I think there's still internal development to be had on this squad. I don't think these forwards are done evolving, Suggs could still add to his game, and the team still has youngsters that could emerge as legit options. I really liked Anthony Black, you can go watch my heat checks, Caleb Houston, and a newbie in Tristan Da Silva all make me optimistic for this Magic core.